What is wrong with AP classes and specifically AP calculus? Because I have two calculus students that I tutor privately, and they are experiencing similar bad situations, and yet they're in different states that are vastly just wide apart. They're not even contiguous. So why is this phenomenon happening, especially in a calculus class where it's supposed to be college ready or making you college ready, and yet these kids don't have any confidence and they really don't have the skills to go on to calculus 2 if they want to go on to calculus 2. I have been doing a lot of research on AP classes, and unfortunately I don't have as much data on AP calculus as I'd like to. If you see all of my old videos, I took dual enrollment. I didn't take AP classes, and I feel like I was just so much better as I just felt, I don't want to say I'm so much better, but I felt like I was so much more prepared to tackle problems on later on in life, not just later on in school, but later on in life, as a result of me taking these classes and taking a long time. This is a crock pot. You know, education needs to be a crock pot. It's not a microwave, and I feel like AP kind of sells themselves as this microwave of success, where they torture you for a whole year, and your entire college credit is based off a 2 or 3 hour exam at the end of the year, which as a college student, I'm not currently in college, I'm gonna go back soon, but when I was in college, that's unbearable. A 2 to 3, just one 2 to 3 hour exam. I needed at least 2 before the final. Like, that's just insane to me that that would be the case for a student, and they're taking all these AP classes just to look a little bit impressive, and specifically with calculus, they're not prepared. They've taken physics. My two students, they have taken physics before, but the atrocities that I have found in their AP classes is that they don't even have a textbook. One of my students, she doesn't have a textbook, and she doesn't even have a syllabus for class. And this is a high school senior we're talking about. And you know, just talking with my manager who does tutoring, I work partially on the side for someone else and partially just for myself when I tutor, but I'm just astounded that there was no syllabus, there was no textbook, and so she's got nothing to reference, and she's basically told, oh, just use ChatGPT. Excuse you? What? Just use ChatGPT? And she doesn't even think that the teacher is skilled enough for the class, where he is just grading off of a rubric that the math coordinator is giving them. I didn't even know that a math coordinator existed, but just what the math coordinator is giving him, so he doesn't understand the theory, he doesn't understand the nuances, so when he sees something that looks wrong, he's just like, oh, that's wrong, which I think is okay up until about maybe algebra. Arithmetic, yeah, but algebra and calculus require so much more understanding to know the intermediate steps and everything else is actually correct, because I've done that before with my own students, where I had a co-teacher that's like, wrong, 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 wrong. I'm like, no, they were right with this. That is acceptable. That is an acceptable way to explain the theory of what's going on. And I was way younger than this teacher. This teacher was like, she was 60 something, I think she was 65 years old, and she was actually an English teacher, or an English major and a special ed teacher, and she was helping me out in this alternative high school course where I was teaching Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. So if someone like that, who's been helping out with math for a few years, is unable to see problems within, or not problems, is unable to see the nuance within problems and students' answers for classes that aren't even calculus, I don't trust anyone who can't even pass the AP Calc exam to teach it to students. Like, this is the standard that I would implement for AP courses, and it would just be like college, because this is a standard that we have in college, is that your teacher must be able to pass the exam, not just pass, I would say like ace the exam within 1/3 of the time of the students. And this is a way to gauge the difficulty of an exam for class, that if let's say the exam takes an hour long, let's say the exam takes 3 hours long, you as the teacher need to ace it within 1 hour. If the exam is 1 hour long, you should ace it within 22 minutes or 20 minutes. Sorry, why did I say 22? But that is the gauge, and the way that the student was talking about her teacher sounds like he couldn't even get it within like the allotted amount of time, the AP exam. So what business does he have teaching the class? My other student has a teacher who is on leave, I assume maternity leave, but like the teacher's just gone. And this is a magnet school, meaning that the parents are paying extra, and they don't have any more calculus teachers. And that was actually the same case with the first student that I talked about. There's no other calculus teachers. So to me, it seems like this is a power trip for the teacher, and there's a lack of accountability, because at least in college, I mean, you'll have a whole band of professors, a whole band of instructors that are divvying out all of the topics, everything that we're going to go over, so that even if you have a different professor that may go over a few different things, you actually are progressing in the same way, and that you're prepared for the next class in the same way. Calculus 2. The other thing that I found extremely wrong with AP Calculus, at least with my students, is the level of understanding and the topics. So I kid you not, one of my students has stuff from her class that I recognize from my Calc 3 and Calc 4 class. Could you please explain to me why I'm seeing Calc 3 in an AP Calculus AB class? And that's not even going into AP Calculus BC, which I think is an absolute joke to be teaching to students. That's another microwave of education, where it's like, oh, look at this. It's a status symbol. You're smart enough to be in AP Calculus BC. And that's totally stupid. Why are, like, these are marketed as ways to, you know, get faster, or like finish up college faster, because instead of paying a couple thousand for tuition, you're paying $100 for the AP exam, but you are not prepared. You are not prepared to be an engineer. You are not prepared to be a scientist, because you don't understand how this actually works, and you were not properly assessed on these topics. So how does this even equate to being fully prepared? And I'll tell you why. It's because the College Board loves money. And so I don't want to get into that. That's going to be a different rabbit hole. But I went on to Reddit, because I'm like, I need to see what people are talking about. A lot of the complaints I had seen was of AP Calculus or AP Pre-Calc, meaning that they were just taking an exam, and they were getting charged like $80 or $100, and it was basically useless, because they were going to take calculus the next year. So I'm like, oh my gosh, these money grabbers. But on Reddit, I found this book, which is, I think it was made in 2018. This is Shortchanged by Annie Abrams, How Advanced Placement Cheats Students. And she was an AP language teacher, and she actually had gotten that job after, this was actually published in 2023, my mistake. So this is more recent, something that I wish I could have had back when I was taking it, dual enrollment and understanding everything. I'm very glad that people steered me away from AP and went straight to dual enrollment, because it was actually like within 2 weeks of taking dual enrollment, I'm like, this is the best decision ever. I'm never going back to high school. But this author, Annie Abrams, was actually an AP language teacher, or AP English, and she was a doctoral student, already being basically a professor at her university, and so she expected, as she should, that being an AP English teacher should be very much the same as being an AP English professor. But she was absolutely wrong, and saying that there was oftentimes she would give competing tools, meaning that the stuff that she would be teaching in class would not prepare her students for the high stakes AP exam, which she doesn't even think was, you know, a proper representation of what you would have in college. So for one, she talks about the inundation of how much stuff she had to grade, and with that inundation, you're very tempted to use the AP rubric, which disallows you to build that relationship with your student when you're reading their essays, which I totally agree with her. When you're writing essays and reading them, you are building a relationship with your student because you want them to be able to express themselves fully, and you want them to be able to express themselves with great eloquence and precision. And not being able to do that because you're constricted by a certain standard that is considered college ready when she doesn't even think it's college ready when she was already a professor. Like that's absolutely absurd. Like why is there a differing opinion here? And then more so about AP Calculus, like even my own brother, he didn't even take AP Calculus and he's studying engineering now. He took AP US History, and his thoughts were, if I had trouble with AP US History, and he had several issues with his school anyway, lots of as I would call it, dick measuring contests when it comes to AP classes, not within the student body, but just like schools touting that they have AP classes and be like, look at us, we have all these AP classes and we have this graduation rate because blah blah blah. And it was just like loopholes that were made in order to make themselves sound good. Dick measuring contest. But I mean, what he was saying was, like, if he had trouble with AP US History, how much more trouble would he have when it came to AP Calculus? And having the instruction that he has at the same community college that I went to is vital for his understanding, because there are a lot of ex-engineers that worked at my community college, and former, scientists. Like, they're in the technical sense, you're still a scientist. If you ask questions, you're a scientist, and that's exactly what my super smart biology professor said. But they worked in the fields beforehand, and so I feel like they are more prepared to help you actually become a good worker and lay that good foundation for your mathematical and your physical understanding of the world. And that's just not the case when it came to AP Calculus. So actually, let me show you something that someone had commented on my video last year, where I posted something saying, this is the downfall of education. I was ranting about this, or ranting about the downfall of education for 16 minutes. And I was speaking very softly because I was living with my parents at the time, and I didn't want to bother anyone. But my message, I hope it hit home. And I actually got a really awesome comment on there. And it was about someone who took AP, or not AP, but it was about someone who took classes with, like, it was about someone that took computer science, and they were complaining about the students who took AP classes. So listen to this whole thing. The algorithm pointed me to a great vid. I remember writing papers in high school about College Board's exploitation and the dark history of its tests. Real messed up stuff. Makes me hate them more, realizing how shallow the education part of AP exams is. I'm a cybersecurity major, formerly Comp Sci, and the kids coming from AP Comp Sci had terrible fundamentals. I couldn't even talk about tech with them. They were there because it's the stable major that makes a lot of money. Most of them relied on copy-pasting solutions without understanding how any of it worked. I've had many comp sci major friends that didn't know what their computer's operating system was. Between Chegg, Quizlet solutions, and even LLMs, students aren't thinking for themselves. College Board advertises itself as its head start, but it just makes someone overconfident and underskilled. People just want this fast pass to success, money, status, but the people that put in the work make the world a better place. Keep going! And it was like, oh, thanks for the compliment, and thank you for sharing your experience. I'm so glad others see it too. And then 6 months later, I asked this question. I said, what does LLM stand for? And this person responded, large language model. It's a type of AI that is trained on long text data. It's the specific type of AI that ChatGPT and Gemini are. So what he's basically, or I don't know, he or she, whoever this person may be, was complaining about the lack of fundamentals because of how accessible the answers are. And when you don't work for those answers, you're going to be a weaker product. Let me just give you this explanation. If you have a tree, All right, here's the tree, here's the ground. If the nutrients are right here, the roots are not gonna go very deep. If the nutrients are like down over here, the roots are gonna go really, really deep, so that when storms come, you stand strong. Storms in this case is like real life examples, and not just examples, like real life work where you're going to be hit with all these different problems, and you need to, you are supposed to, it's incumbent upon you to understand how to attack these problems. Another thing is like when a plant is growing up, right? And if it gets sunlight, it's gonna stay like right here, right? But under like a canopy in a forest, and actually it's like the dark green rays underneath all the leaves from the canopy is what signals extra growth to the plant that's like right here. So as long as it's getting those dark green rays, it's gonna grow even taller and taller and taller. So in darkness, it grows even taller. You are supposed to be in a crock pot of education. I know, microwave sounds awesome, but the crock pot is better when it comes to this. All right, and I mean like oven food, okay? Yeah, the oven takes forever, baking bread takes forever, making bread takes forever, but that bread is awesome, and I get to control what's in it. All right, I love it when I make my own bread. It tastes awesome. Every single bread that I make tastes awesome. All right, and so I am just like totally astounded by the lack of education when it comes to my students. Like why are my calculus students struggling? And not just because calculus is supposed to be difficult, but they're struggling with lack of resources, with lack of good teachers. And not only that, my student that didn't even have a syllabus or a textbook, her teacher is a sexist pig that only wants to befriend the males in the class. This teacher is a male. He only wants to befriend the male students in the class, and the 3 female students he kind of leaves by themselves, doesn't want to answer them. She attends as many things as possible. I spoke with her father, and he's a great dad. Like he fights for his daughter, but they don't even get anything back from the principal, or they barely get anything back from the principal. They already emailed the superintendent, the school board. Nothing is coming back. So I went ahead and emailed the Board of Education for her state. They haven't gotten back to me. And then I even looped in, making it like, you know, a little more threatening, the Department of Education at the federal level, and I still haven't gotten a response. So obviously this is a huge problem with having teachers that don't want to teach, that just want a paycheck, and they have no business being in school, and their school has no business offering an AP class if they can't supply a good AP teacher. And it looks like there is just funding available if you have more AP classes. I know that the College Board requires schools to pay dues in order to have AP classes, so it's like some sort of sick sorority or frat, like, oh, you're part of the AP exams, Alpha Pi or whatever. I think, yeah, Alpha Pi, that's what it's gonna be. But it's like, you're not even helping students out. You're just gathering their money from them. In other videos, I'm going to go over the College Board as a whole and maybe AP classes as a whole, but I hope you enjoyed this video about AP Calculus. It's really just me ranting. I know I haven't been here in a long time, and that's because I've got some health things going on, but everything's okay, but I really needed to just focus on myself and my body. All right, I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.